All right, so you've been retired for 4 years now. How are you keeping yourself busy?
Well, finding a lot of things to do around the house, working on everything, fixing everything, going to the gym 5 days a week, working out, doing some strength training, doing some cardio, just staying in shape. And then I got family that's up in Leeds, and they're kind of getting a little older, so to go check on them. Spent a lot of time doing that, so staying busy though.
I mean, you were in it for so long. I mean, do you miss basketball? Is it something that you think about all the time, or you just kind of enjoying retired life now?
You know what I miss? I miss the practices. I miss going to practice and the preparation, getting kids ready to play. And then I miss those little, if I'm watching a game, I miss those little goosebumps when they're playing the national anthem and you're getting ready to compete and you're getting ready to get into the game. But for the most part, I miss practice. I used to love to go to practice and be out there with the kids and working them. So sometimes, you get a little nostalgic for that.
Yeah, I mean, you and I coached against each other. We've known each other for a long time, but that's kind of like me. I mean, one of the things that I miss a lot about coaching is the teaching aspect of it. It was I love going to practice and teaching kids the game of basketball.
Mm-hmm. Practice. I mean, that's where everything. That's where all the preparation is. That's where you make everything happen. That's where you prepare for whatever team or whatever situation you're getting ready for. So that, I think a lot of coaches are like that. If you ask them, their practice is what they miss. I think that's what we love. Same thing you said. You love teaching. You love seeing kids go from one point to another and just getting better and just watching them progress as they go through.
Yeah. Now, you're not the most. You're pretty hard to find on the internet. I mean, when you Google your name, there was actually let me see here, a flamenco guitarist named Ron Radford. So that's when I typed. That's not you, different person.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but I want to know about your upbringing. I know you grew up in Leeds and you ended up playing at Sanford, but tell me about your growing up years, your formative years, and then playing basketball in high school and then going on to the college level.
Yeah, grew up in Leeds, one of 12 siblings, and I'm third from the bottom, so I'm the third youngest. Got two brothers that are younger. One of them has already passed away, but grew up in Leeds. Started playing basketball when I was 10 years old in the youth leagues, and moved on to junior high, and then I was at the high school, played 1 year of junior varsity, my ninth grade year, then moved up to the varsity my sophomore year and was a 3-year starter. Became first team All-State as a junior, was first team All-State as a senior, ranked in the top 10 and then stayed on the top 10 list. And did go to Sanford, spent 4 years there, and spent a year playing overseas in Luxembourg. And then when I got back, I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to go back to play. Actually, I was going to go back to Ireland to play the next year. And then a buddy of mine that I played with at Sanford got the head job at LaGrange College and asked me to go with him. So I'm weighing whether I want to keep playing or do I want to start my coaching career. I ended up deciding to go with him, and actually that's how I ended up at Southern Union. I stayed 2 years with him and then got the Southern Union job after 2 years with him.
What was Luxembourg like?
It was great.
Where'd you live?
Well, they had a 2-story house that they allowed me to live in and had a BMW that they allowed me to drive. And so it was a nice situation. Basketball wasn't the top level, but kind of intermediate. And they was allowed to have 2 American players on the team. And really, to be honest with you, when I first got over there, because I actually replaced a guy that they were sending home, which they do that. And so I didn't get over to October, and I think he got there in August, but I actually replaced a guy. And I remember I got off the plane on a Sunday morning, flew in all the way from Atlanta to Belgium on a Saturday night, got in on Sunday, and Coach picked me up there, and we had to play a game the next day on that Monday. And to be honest with you, it's the worst game I've ever played in my life. And I just couldn't get right, but it was jet lag. And I just nothing would go right. And I'm thinking, boy, they're going to send me home too. They're going to think I can't play. And then we was playing another game a couple of days later, and I think I ended up getting like 29 points, and that like settled everything down. Okay, they know I can play a little bit. And but I enjoyed the experience, meeting the people, and just the travel, going from country to country, playing games, So it's an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything. I mean, it was great.
What was your favorite country in Europe? Favorite place to visit?
We played down in the south of France, and I enjoyed that. And
Did you go to the Riviera?
then go to the Riviera. We was actually playing a cup game down there in the south of France, and enjoyed being down there and just meeting the people and just seeing some of the culture, or getting off the train and stopping in Paris for a while and just walking the streets of Paris, and just exploring really. Or if we was playing in Germany, if I was going through Frankfurt or Mannheim or one of those cities, I would always leave the train station. If I had a layover, and I'd walk downtown and just kind of explore, go in little shops, little sidewalk cafes and stuff. So I always enjoyed doing that. And actually, my sister and her husband, he's a career military guy, they were stationed in right below Stuttgart, Germany. So over our little Christmas break, I got a chance to go down and visit with them and spend some time with them. So it was great.
Paris much different than Leeds?
Yeah, it's a little bit different from Leeds. And the thing about this, it's a lot different from Wadley, Alabama. So
Paris to Wadley, that sounds like an article.
Yeah. I told somebody that, and it was a little old lady. She said, "Coach, I don't know if I'd tell anybody that."
Yeah. All right. Now, I fancy myself as a great world capitals buff, but is the capital of Luxembourg?
Luxembourg City.
Luxembourg City. Okay. I always would get like Luxembourg and Liechtenstein, but Luxembourg is kind of like right there around Belgium, France, right in
Germany,
right
all right there together.
Okay. Yeah.
You can be in from one country to the other in 30 minutes. You're in Belgium, you're in Luxembourg, you're in France, you're in Germany.
Yeah.
Like we go from state to state, even closer than that. They go from country to country.
Now, what made you want to go into coaching?
I always wanted, growing up, I always said, every player want to make it all the way to the NBA. But I always said I wanted to be an NBA player, or I want to coach. And those were the two options that stuck in my mind from when I was just a little kid. So I'm going to do one other. Actually, the other one didn't come through. So the next thing is I'm going to coach, and I'm going to teach kids, and I'm going to help kids do better their lives. That was always instilled in me.
Who was your coach at Leeds, and then who'd you play for at Sanford? And how were those two guys similar and different?
My coach at Leeds was Billy Copeland. And Billy was laid back, kind of let the players, express themselves. And, wasn't a yeller, wasn't a screamer, anything like that. But we respected him. And we always wanted to go out and play hard, and we always wanted to win games for him. And then at Sanford, I actually played for 3 coaches in 4 years. I came in with a guy named Fred Kroll. And Fred got let go after my freshman year, and then Cliff Weddick took over. Cliff had been the interim coach at Tennessee when he took over for Ray Mears, if you remember that name. Mm-hmm. And then he ended up at Sanford and in some role, but he was there my first year, and then when they let Fred go, Cliff took over. And then Cliff actually passed away my junior year. And running on the track, around the track at Sanford, had a heart attack. And he passed away, and then that's when Mike Hanks came in. He was the night disciple, and I played for him my senior year. A little story about Coach Weddick. His daughter, Patricia, played in the show 30-something. And he had 2 daughters. I think the other one was an airline stewardess, and then the other one was an actress, and she played in 30-something. And so ended up playing for 3 coaches in 3 years, and I get asked this question a lot. Well, how did that affect you? Well, always that many changes. There are going to be, some transition. But what I did was I took a little bit from all of them. I took bits and pieces from all of them. And when I started coaching and started my career, I ran drills and I ran plays that I had actually took from all of them.
Now, you're 27 years old when you get the Southern Union job. Mm-hmm. What were you like back then?
Fiery. And some of the players would say mean. And no nonsense. We're going to walk in the gym. When the whistle blows, you can hear a pin drop. We're going to walk in the gym. We're going to blow the whistle. We're going to run our drills, and we're going to go from, we used to set it up. We're going to run a warm-up session. We're going to do a defensive session, guards, forwards, breakdown, and then we're going to get into the offensive session. So it was always broke down into 3 segments like that: warm-up session, defensive session, offensive session, and we always went in that order. And everybody knew once the whistle blow, it's all business. We're going to go boom, 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 boom. We had a group come down from Kentucky Wesleyan. They was coming off, I think, a Division II national championship, several of them, to be honest with you. And they was recruiting the Reynolds kid that went up to St. John's. And they came in to watch a practice, and they brought their whole coaching staff. They brought some of their boosters, and they brought their radio people with them. So they all sitting in the stands watching practice. And when I come out, and we had so many people, recruiters and stuff coming in that time, my kids actually didn't pay any attention anymore. So I blow the whistle, we go boom, 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 boom. And I remember one of their boosters said, "Coach, you know, I ain't never seen somebody practice that hard like that before." He said, "Y'all do that every day?" I said, "Yeah, don't everybody?" And he looked at me, he said, "No." I said, "But this is just the way we do it." He said, "Them kids didn't miss a beat, and you couldn't even tell they was breathing, and y'all never stopped." And I said, "Well, that's just the way we do it. Don't everybody do it like that?" And he looked at me again and said, "No, not everybody." And then, I said, "Well, I guess this is the way we do it, but I guess we're doing a couple things right. Hopefully we are." And but they was just trying to make a great sales pitch to get him, which Grady, at St. John's, if something don't go wire, they're not gonna get him. And but just the way they did it, and how the kids responded to me, meant everything. So if we got the right guys, and most of the time we did, they would buy in, they would come in, they would listen, and they would try to do everything that I asked them to do. They actually was trying to always please me. And as a coach, you can't ask for any more than that.
Do you think a lot of young coaches kind of overcorrect? Because, when you get in at 27, I think I became the head coach at Bevel State at like 29 or 30. Mm-hmm. You're not that much older than your players. Did you kind of feel that when you were coaching at an early age, that, hey, I gotta establish respect? And do you think some coaches kind of overcorrect in that department?
Yeah, you do. And they know you're not much older than them. They know you're the young guy. In fact, I was the youngest coach in the league when I came in. And it was I was conscious of my age and that I wasn't that much older than them. So yeah, I got to separate myself from them. I got to make sure they understand this ain't a player-player relationship. This is a coach-player relationship. So I wouldn't do anything that would put that in jeopardy. I always kept my distance, so to speak. There was a distance there. Yeah. And it was a line that they knew that they wasn't going to cross.
A hard line.
Yeah, that they're not going to cross, and I'm not going to cross. And this is the way it is, and I set it up like that, and they bought into it. In fact, I was talking to one of my guys last week that's refereeing over in Georgia, and I lived in LaGrange, about 30 minutes from where I live. And we got on these, and he said, "I'm 57 now, Coach." And I said, "Well, Kevin, really, I think about it, I really wasn't that much older than y'all when I first came in." And but you have to establish a hard line and a line that can't be crossed, because you got to set yourself up differently. I even stopped playing, and I used to love to play. Sometimes in the summer, not during the season, I would get out there and go up and down the floor with them some, but I was so competitive. And then it got to the point I decided, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. Not going to play well. I'm not going to get out there. Not even in the summertime. I'm not going to get out there and I'm not going to play with them. I'm just going to coach them and run drills and do stuff like that. But I had to always pull myself away from it.
Was that kind of a respect thing, or were you just not as good as you once were?
Actually, most of the time I'm better than all of them.
I figured you were.
I was better than all of them, and to be honest with you, I didn't want to take any of their confidence. And then once you get to that age, you know how to play too.
Get out there and work them, and break them a little bit. Yeah.
We used to play a game called Cutthroat with the big people on the block, and I was so much stronger, and just knew how to position myself and how to get to my position. Once I got on the floor, they never could get me off.
Yeah. I wish I could have played junior college basketball. See, I started playing junior college basketball at 16.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I could have played at 25 because I was a lot meaner, when I got older. I mean, like, I wasn't very mean when I was coming through.
At 16, that's young.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Did you mellow out through the years? Were you different at say 45 than you were 27?
Not at 45.
When did you start to kind of mellow?
I think I mellowed out maybe at 55 a little bit, not at 45.
I wouldn't have thought you were 55 now.
Yeah, so. I was still spitting nails at 45. And but at 55, I think I mellowed, and it was kind of in subtle ways. Probably gave him a little bit more rope than what I would have done earlier. Yeah. And then the kids changed too. And you had to come to the realization that the way I coached those kids my first 15 to 20 years may not be the right way to coach these kids now, because to be honest with you, they were saucer. And I hate to use that word, but they just couldn't take it.
Softer later in your career.
Yeah, later. Yeah. But you could get on a kid about something early in my career and they would respond to it and get better from it. But what I found out, and you probably saw the same thing, is when you got on the kids, probably my last 10 years, they pouted. They would pout about it. And I used to always say that used to be what girls do. Now girls respond and go play. Now the boys are pouting. And but you would see them drop their head and they would pout when you wanted them to respond. You want them to give you something from it and take something from it and get better from it. They would just drop their head and pout. And they would stay in that mode. And so that was the change that I saw. And so you had to kind of back off just a little, kind of reluctantly back off just a little. But at the same time, you got to be who you are.
One of the first guys that you saw as a coach was Coach Clem. Before you even got the Southern Union job, you'd seen Coach Clem and the competitiveness and the fire. Talk about how he influenced you as a coach and as a person.
Yeah, I was recruiting for LaGrange College. Came to the junior college state championship game, and Coach Clem, Walker College team, was playing Wallace-Hansfield. I'll never forget. And I was just amazed at how well the teams were coached, the talent level, and just watching Coach Clem. I mean, Coach Clem was a towering figure too. Just watching him on the sideline and how he commanded his team and how he went about his business. And I'm gonna be honest, I was impressed by that. And because I left Leeds and played at Sanford, I hadn't had a lot of I didn't really know that much about junior college basketball. And that was my introduction to it, and I think that's the main reason I took the Southern Union job, because I knew it was really good basketball. And I knew coming in that Coach Clem was the guy you got to beat. If you can beat him and you can get your program up to that level, then you can probably handle the rest of them in the league. But I knew he was a standard. I knew he was the guy to shoot for, and that's what I did.
How hard was it to recruit in Wadley? I mean, you built a great program. I mean, you were there for many, many years. But I mean, people that have gone to Wadley, there's not much there. You know, so what's your sales pitch? How do you get people to come to Wadley, Alabama?
Well, first thing in Wadley, you got to win. And you got to have a track record of putting kids, leaving your place and going to the next level and playing at the next level. And once the kids that are coming to the community college know that, they know you can get them from point A to point B, then they're not so much worried about the town or what's there or what's not there. They're more concerned that, well, this program can get me from point A to point B. And I think that was the sales pitch going in, that you're going to come in and you're going to invest 2 years in Wadley, Alabama. In fact, I used to tell them, you're not coming to Wadley, Alabama to make a home or to live. You're coming here to stay 2 years, get in the classroom, get your associate's degree, and then we're going to move you on up the road. So you're not investing your whole life in Wadley, Alabama. This is a stop, and you're going to move on to bigger and greater things. So you don't have to worry about what's here and what's not there. And then on top of that you can concentrate on what you need to concentrate on. Because you can't go down the nightclub. We ain't even got a McDonald's there.
And I bet parents like that. Like, hey, there's not a whole lot to do there. There's not a whole lot of trouble to get into. Yeah. Probably a good thing for you when you're talking to people in their homes.
Parents loved it.
Yeah,
makes sense. That was the ideal place they wanted them. And really, it wasn't that hard, especially once we won a few championships, and then I was the first, was Al the first big, I'm trying to think, well, Ben Wilder was my first recruit kid out of Athens, and he went up to UT Chattanooga, played for Mac McCarthy. I guess Al Dillard was the first one that went like big time. But once we started generating guys like that, and then Lewis Moore going to Indiana, and Adrian Person going to Auburn, and Cleotus Brown going to Illinois, we had a kid went up to Nebraska. Once you establish that, and word's out, and they done seen a couple of your kids turn on the TV, and they said that kid played at Southern Union, actually it became easy. I ain't gonna say easy, but it wasn't as hard to sell as what you thought it was. I'll give you a quick story about Adrian Person. That's Chuck and Wesley's nephew out in Brantley. And everybody think that I got in some big recruiting battle for Adrian, and it really wasn't a recruiting battle. The recruiting battle was my phone ring, Adrian Person said, "Hey coach, it's Adrian, I want to come play for you." That was a recruiting battle. And he could have went anywhere. And the thing with Adrian was talented as the other two, but he was lazy. And when I sit down with him and his folks, I said, "I'm gonna tell you something. He's good. He is talented as Chuck and Wesley, but he lazy. And if he come to my place, I'm not gonna allow him to be lazy, and I'm gonna get the most out of him." And so everybody's on board. And you know what? He never dogged the practice for me. He never dogged the game. He was Junior College National Player of the Year. He was selected to play in their select teams going over to Italy, and became everything that he should have been. And but everybody think, well, you had to get in a recruiting battle. No, the recruiting battle, he called me up and said, Coach, I want to come play for you. That was it. But we had it established like that then.
What was the Southern Union program like when you took it over?
Actually, Coach Gordo's in his final year won the state championship. And I think that was his only one that he won. But I was taking over for a coach that had just won the state championship. And I inherited 4 guys that he left. And I got there June the 1st of 87. And I recruited 8 guys, and put them with those 4 guys, and that was my first team. And then we ended up winning the state championship my second year with those 8 guys being the core. But when I was at LaGrange, and just tell you about youth, I was recruiting a kid named Craig Yule out of Fayetteville, Georgia, at LaGrange College. Kid signed with the University of Georgia. So I'm not getting this kid. But I'm at his games, and I'm sitting up there with his folks, and I'm sitting up there with them every game, and I'm talking to them, and they got to know me. But Craig redshirted 1 year at Georgia. He was when Hugh Durham was there. Then he played, and then he wasn't getting as much playing time. And I'm sitting in my office during the summer, and he walks in the office, 6'9", big old German kid, and said, Coach, you got a scholarship. If you got a scholarship, I want to come play for you. And I always would keep 1 scholarship just for that during the summer. And that's what flipped it, and that's how we won that first state championship. He took us overboard, and ended up signing with Sonny Smith up at VCU after he left my place. But just the relationship I had established with him and his parents, knowing I'm not getting this kid, but just to sit there with him, and then when it came time he was ready to go somewhere else, he walks in my door.
Mm-hmm. You know, you and I talked about this before, but there's such a misconception, particularly in the 80s and 90s, when I feel like it was really the heyday of junior college basketball in the state of Alabama, but there's such a misconception about how good a junior college player is. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. But if you looked at the Glenn Clem coach teams, the Doug Key coach teams down at Chattanooga Valley, Jack Robinson coach teams down at Faulkner, Shuttleworth team coached up at Calhoun. And those guys had great talent, and they had great discipline, and they were very well coached. So coming in, if you had never seen a junior college basketball game and you're going to compare it to whatever, if you saw that level of talent competing at that high level on any given night, you would be amazed and shocked at how good the basketball was. And the basketball in the 80s and 90s was the heyday of community college basketball. I don't know exactly where it's at right now, but I know it's not where it was in the 80s and 90s because everybody had competitive teams. Everybody had some guys that could leave and go on and play at high level of Division I. Some mid-majors at Division I, maybe even some high-level Division II guys. But every team in the league had guys like that, and the competition was fierce. And if you went through your conference schedule and you went through your conference championship and you was a representative, you were a good basketball team and you were a well-coached basketball team.
You know, I think a lot of times when you think about junior college basketball, it's almost like the Rodney Dangerfield of basketball. It's like it doesn't get the respect, but it also serves a very important purpose. And you mentioned Cleotus Brown earlier. There's a great story with respect to the way where he came from and where he went to. So tell us his story. Yeah.
Cleotus Brown was a young man from Pittsview, Alabama.
Pittsview. Okay, tell us where that is.
It's down near Phoenix City.
Okay.
Right on that Columbus-Phoenix City line, and down in Seal. And he was a kid that coming out of high school, was ranked pretty high, had committed to the University of Alabama, had signed with the University of Alabama. And for whatever reason, they couldn't get him in at the last minute. And their recruiting coach asked me if I would go down and talk to his mother to see if I could get him to come to Southern Union. He said, now you're going to have to sell his mother. So I hightail it down there, go down there, sit in the living room with him for a couple of hours, probably longer than that, talking about a little everything. And finally she looked at him and she said, Coach, you know what? I believe you and I trust you. But I'm going to give you this young man. I'm going to give him to you because I done did all I can do with him. And I kind of looked at her and just kind of chuckled, and she looked at me with a straight face. She didn't smile. And I'm thinking, you know what, she mean that. And so we get to camp, we get him on campus, and he gets there. And backstory on that, his dad had passed away in a car wreck, I believe, when he was 6 years old. So she basically had spent all that time trying to raise this boy by herself. And so he gets on campus, and he's a knucklehead. And he done everything he can do to get under your skin. And as all my other players that were there at the time, they tell you he broke into the wrong camp for that. And so there were many times I got to discipline. I got to just, we start the season off. He's a really good player going to the University of Illinois to play basketball for them when he leave my place. So he's a good player. And his freshman year, we're getting ready to go down to Championship Valley to play this tip-off tournament against Florida schools. And we go down, and I forget exactly what he did. But I remember I called his mom up. I said, Miss Brown, he's not playing it. He's not going to play. And she said, Coach, what he done? I told her what he done. And I said, I'm leaving him at home. He's coming. He's not allowed to come to the game. And the credit, I give all the credit to her. She come to both of those games, sit behind our bench, and cheered as hard as anybody in that gym for us, and she never said one word about her son not being there. So she supported me on that. So we go on, and he's not doing the things they need to do his freshman year, but we keep him out there. His sophomore year hadn't gotten any better. And I remember walking in the gym one day, I said, Cleotus, you know what? You're not going to play this year, but you're going to practice, and you're going to go to class, and you're going to get better, and you're going to run every drill hard, and you're going to do everything like we want to do, and then I'll think about playing you your junior year. Now, you can do what you want to do.
And he ended up redshirting.
He redshirted, refused to play. Well, I'm going to call my mama, and I'm going home. I said, go home. If that's what you want to do, go home. One player won't make this program. He drove back up to the dorm, calls his mom. 15 minutes later, comes back down there. I said, well, what'd your mother tell you? She told me I'm not going anywhere. You stand right there with Coach Radford, and you're going to do everything he told you to do. So if he tell you to sit, you're going to sit. And so he sit out all that year. And then his third year, the lights came on. And he's working hard. Always was a smart kid. Always could do his classwork. Doing the things we're asking him to do. Being a good teammate. Starting to be a leader. Really starting to show leadership. Ended up being, I think, the top-rated junior college player in our league, signing with the University of Illinois. Could have went just about anywhere. He had Alabama was in looking at him, UAB, Auburn. Could have went just about anywhere. Anyway, wanted to go get away from home, signed with the University of Illinois. Was a 2-year starter for them. And then we was just moving in our new arena after that season was over. This was spring of '97, I believe. Yeah, spring of '97. And I remember the president coming to me and saying, Coach, we need somebody to represent the athletic program to speak to all these people that are here. Just tell them about what their perspective of the athletic program was. And he said, you got somebody that'll do a good job. And I said, you know what, Cleotus Brown. 3 years earlier, would have never said that. Might not even wanted him in the building. And Cleotus Brown, he gets up in front of all these people, and the place is packed. And he gets up, and I almost get emotional on it, but he gave one of the most eloquent speeches you'll ever hear. And he represented the program as good as anybody could. And I remember the president coming to me and he said, boy, you made the right choice. He did a great job. I said, yeah, I knew he would. But that's how much he had matured from when he was a freshman to his third year. And it takes longer for some of them. All of them don't get there at the same time, but I wasn't going to give up on him. His mother wasn't going to give up on him, but long as he didn't give up on himself.
Tell me why, though. Why, was it something that you saw in him, or did you feel an obligation to his mom? Were there different factors in your not giving up on him, continuing to give him second and third chances?
I knew he was trying to be something that he wasn't. I saw him better than he saw himself. I knew he really wasn't that character kid, that he was just trying to act out and be something that I knew he wasn't. And I knew he had so much potential to do whatever he really wanted to do. And so, it's always, Al, it's easy to give up on a kid. Sometimes you got to stick with them, and you got to go through the growing pains with them. Easiest thing you can do is throw the kid out. Mm-hmm. I've never walked into a situation with any kid or a relationship with any kid where the first choice was to throw him out, because that's the easy thing to do. You got to try to correct him. You got to try to get him to understand, and sometimes you got to go through the growing pains with him.
Where's the breaking point, or were there times throughout your career that you did have to dismiss a kid? And how do you start to make that determination, or did you try to hang in there with him? Most
of the time, I say 95% of the time, I probably hung in there with them. Didn't have a lot of situations like Cleotus. Probably a couple of situations where you had to dismiss a kid because it's just something that's what it's called for. That what you did was so egregious. That's what it called for.
There's a couple situations I regret across the years that I wish I would not have dismissed a player. You know, I wish I would have hung in there. Of course, I was a young coach. I mean, I was very young when I got started, like you. I mean, I was a little bit older, but there were a couple situations where I wish I would just hung in there with them.
Yeah, and you do, because you realize you're dealing with 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, and we all think about ourselves at that age. You made mistakes. You're really not. You're immature.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do immature things, and you're gonna do things that can put yourself in trouble, and you have to kind of put yourself in their place sometimes and realize that this kid can get better from this, and you're gonna have to show him how to get better. And a lot of times it's tough love. And I know Coach Clem coached that way. He coached with tough love. I coach with tough love. And like I told you earlier, coaches like us are not for everybody. But if you come and you're willing to pay the price and you're willing to stay and endure and get better, you're going to reap the rewards for it. And I think most young men want that. Whether they admit it or not, they want that. And so you got to, like I said, the easiest thing you can do is kid make a mistake, throw him out. That's easy. Anybody can do that. In fact, I told one of my deans that once, about a kid, got rid of a kid and threw him out of the dorm. I said, Dean, the easiest thing you can do is throw him out. Why don't we try to save him? Now, if you keep messing up, I understand, you got to throw him out. But I said, well, why won't we try to save him? I said, the easiest thing you can do is throw him out. And then what's he going to do? What's his life going to be like? I said, you always got to think long term like that. Did he do something that's that egregious? If that's the case, then okay. But most situations are not, don't fall into that category.
All right, for somebody that will never get to go to Hutchinson, Kansas other than on vacation, what was that like?
Oh gosh, tremendous. The talent level, you see pros out there. The talent level that you run across, and the first time I went, in 93 with Al, we actually won in 89, but we had to play this play-in. We played Northeast Mississippi and they beat us. But the next time we won, we went straight in, and that was the Al Dillard team. We drew the #1 team in the nation, College of Southern Idaho, the first night. And we had about a week to get ready for them. And I mean, I'm in my film room and I'm just dissecting them. And they got players going everywhere, Seton Hall, UNLV, Providence. They got the lineup just full of Division I players. Big old guys, 6'9", 6'10", big old college team, major college team. And I'm sitting there and I'm dissecting them and I'm watching every play. By the time we got there, I probably knew the offense better than they knew it. And we had Al Dillard. And we get out there and we get up on them. I mean, we really run in circles around them. And I look up at the scoreboard, we up 30 on them. And so we just beating the pants off them. So then they tried to press us, and one thing with my team, you really don't want to press us. We're going to beat your press. And we beating their press, and we down there swinging on the rim, dunking everything. We end up beating them 30-something. They the #1 team in the nation. Next night, we come back, we draw the #3 ranked team in the nation, Vincennes.
Was that Indiana? Or?
Yeah, Indiana.
Yeah.
And be honest with you, I don't know if we were still celebrating that win, because I know you got to win, but they got us the next night. And then so we go in the consolation bracket. You know who we drew? We drew the 5th ranked team in the nation. So that's what you see out there. You see talent galore. You see guys that played in the NBA. We played out there in '98 with Cleotus Brown, and we played against Sean Marion, and he was at Vincennes. Steve Francis was out there. A big old Yugoslavian kid that played with Portland was out there. So you go out there, you see guys that some of them going to end up being pros, but the talent level, once you go the first time, you know how to build your team to compete. And I learned that probably the best team I took out there was the 02 team. And we had 7 guys that signed Division I off that team. But that team was built to go out there to win it all. And when we got on the plane to go out there, we had talked about it. We're not going out here to play this tournament. We're going out here to win this tournament. And we end up the first night, we beat the #3 ranked team in the nation out of Texas. One of those Texas teams, I forget which one. Anyway, we beat them. They was #3 in the country.
San Jacinto or something like that. Probably.
Yeah, one of them. It wasn't, but it was one of those Texas. Anyway, it was Midland, I think.
Midland, okay.
And we ended up beating them, got up 30 on them, ended up beating them by, I think, 19. And Grady Reynolds' kid went to St. John's, sprained his MCL in that game with 12 minutes to go in the game. And And I mean, he's a big part of our team. Backup guy is a Division II guy, a kid named Tywan Thomason out of Soperton, Georgia. He was his backup, 6'9", but he was his backup. And so it came down to it. I remember Mike Jarvis, St. John coach, coming by my room and said, "Coach, how is it?" I said, "Well, I don't think he's going to be able to play. Trainer thinks he's got a sprained MCL." And I said, "I'm not going to play him." And he looked at me and he said, that's commendable. He said, "Coach, a lot of coaches put that guy out there and play him." And I said, "I'm not going to ruin his whole career to do that." And I got to go to the greatest room and he in tears and convince him why I can't put him out there. He wants to go play. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Great, I can't put you out there like that because if you got your whole career at stake. And I'm not going to put you." I said, "Tywan Thomas is going to have to get it done. And if he can't get it done, then so be it, but I'm not going to put you out there like that." And I did, and he in tears. Like, you just be an assistant coach the rest of the tournament. And we went out there, we played a team out of Memphis, Shelby State, I think, then. Mm-hmm. And they was like top 5 in the nation. And we get in a dogfight with them. I mean a dogfight. They won't give an inch, we won't give an inch, they won't give an inch. And we led the whole ball game up until the 4-minute mark when they took their first lead, and they ended up nosing us. And then we drop into the consolation round. And I remember we go to practice the next morning. So we would have got a day off and been in the semifinals, would have pulled that game out. So we got to come back and play the third game 3 days in a row, and it's the consolation game. I'm going to be honest with you, my kids didn't want no part of it. And we at practice, and I'm getting them ready, and I'm looking at, I know the mood, so I huddle them up in a circle after the practice was over. And I start talking about their legacy. I said, "Y'all been 2-time state champions in Alabama. Y'all done won 56 games in 2 years. And you don't want to come out here and lay an egg and not show these people what your character is and what you made of, because that would be a disservice to yourself." And every head came up in unison. Every head just rose up and looked at me. And we was playing the Mississippi representative that afternoon at 2 o'clock. And we went out there, and a kid, Marvin Moore, was a freshman on that team, got 47 points. And we just destroyed them. Totally destroyed them. They went from don't even want to play the game, and we just destroyed them. So we come back on Saturday, going to play for 5th and 6th place. And we playing a team out of, anyway, I forget. Anyway, they had a shooter about 6'5" from Kentucky that could just light it up. Same kind of game, tit for tat. We ain't giving nothing, they ain't giving nothing. It's just going down to the wire. And we up 1, now we up 2 with 8 or 9 seconds to go. And that kid, I'm telling you, he's 35 feet from the basket. And he shoots this thing and it goes straight through. And they beat us by 1. So we lost 2 games by a total, I think, of 4 points without our best player. And I remember I get back to the office, and the coach calls. And he said, "Coach, I'm going to tell you something. You had a really good team." And he said, "I don't know if anybody would have beat y'all if that big kid would have played." I said, "Coach, I'm going to tell you something. Injuries are a part of the game. And if your big kid would have went down, maybe, it hurt you, but that's part of the game." I said, "Anytime you win a championship, you don't apologize to nobody." I said, "I appreciate you saying it. We felt like we were good enough to win it, and we came to win it, but injuries are just part of the game. And that's just the way it goes." And but just the competition level and what you got to have, and I tell teams now, you got to know how to build your team to go out there to win, because it's major college basketball. Mm-hmm. It ain't run-of-the-mill basketball. It's major college basketball. So you got to know what you got to take out there to win those games. And if you don't, you're gonna be in for a rude awakening.
You mentioned Al Dillard earlier, and there's a great recruiting story about you finding him kind of a diamond in the rough. Tell us that one.
Yeah, Al Dillard, assistant coach down at UAB. Actually, was assistant girls coach that called me, and I knew him. And he says, "A kid down here, coach, that's come down here and play with our guys every day, can shoot the lights out of it." He said, I don't know what his whole story is, but I know he needs to play. He needs to be somewhere playing." And I said, "Well, what's his name?" He told me his name. I said, "How can I talk to him?" He said, "Out in the gym, let me go get him." Down at Bell Gym. He came and put him on the phone. I was always probably introduced himself. And I said, "Well, will you come down here the next day? And will you come down here and work out for me? It's summertime." And
To Wadley?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said, yes, sir, I'll come. And I told him what time to be there. I told him we worked out at 1. I said, we're going to work out at 1 o'clock. About 12 o'clock, him and his girlfriend showed up, turned the corner. He came in, introduced himself, dressed in an all green Boston Celtic warm-up suit and even the cap. And he introduced himself. I said, okay, let's go out here and let's get loose. Let's get warmed up. And actually, the coach from Western Carolina was there to watch my kids play that day. And we get out there, and I had a kid on my team from Bibb County, LaRue Griffin. I said, and LaRue was a good defender. I said, let's see what this guy can play. I just want you to get up into him. I want you to make everything as difficult as you can make it for him. So me and the coach from Western Carolina, we sit up in the stands in the gym and watching it, let him play. And, Al started off, LaRue getting it, he down in the stands, he getting up into him. Next thing we know, Al just hitting him from anywhere and everywhere, just lighting him up. And LaRue looks over there at me and does one of these numbers, coach. And I said, and then the coach from Western Carolina looked at me. He said, surely you're going to sign that boy, ain't you? And I said, coach, we're going to try, but he got some work to do. And so he had to get a GED, and he goes on to Jeff State, get his GED, passed it the first time. So that told me he wasn't dumb. He just didn't want to go to school, want to play ball, but he didn't want to go to school. And so he comes in as a freshman, played a lot of street ball. Didn't really know how to fit in a team concept yet, so it was the 18th game. After the 18th game of the season, we played Enterprise, and I brought him off the bench, and I go, he got 30-something. And I remember him walking out of the gym. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, coach, I know what you mean now. I get what you mean. And I put him in that lineup, and we always say the rest is history because he led the nation in scoring the next year and went on to Arkansas, and I'm talking about, you know how small Wadley is. We had coaches literally camping out there. I mean, it was every day. I'd take them down to a little restaurant, and the running story was, coach, who you got with you today? Who you got with you today? It was names people they don't seen on television, and coaches they don't seen on television. And every time I walk in, coach, who you got with you today? But they were just camping out down there trying to get this kid. And I remember Thad Fitzpatrick telling me, you know what, having a guy that shoot that ball like that is like having a 7-footer, because you got to extend so far, your defense so far out to guard him. And when Nolan Richardson said you got to guard him when he's on the snout of the hog in there in Arkansas Arena, he was telling me the truth.
The range he had is what I remember.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you another quick, he was ambidextrous. He could shoot the ball with his left hand as good as he could with his right, and it looked the same. I used to stand up in the gym. He was a gym rat. So where I would stand up in the gym and watch him shoot, everybody else gone wherever. They'll stay in the gym. Every practice, he stay in the gym. And he out there just putting up shots. He'd put up X number with his right hand, X number with his left hand. And I sit there and counted one day, he made 50 in a row.
Wow. 50?
Made 50 in a row. And
Threes?
Threes. The further he was from the basket, the better he was. What he couldn't make was shots inside the three-point line. Mm-hmm. So he'd have to boom, 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 I'm counting, boom. Then he did with his left hand, boom, boom, boom. Counted 50 in a row. And I said, that's just amazing. And
is he the greatest shooter you've ever seen or coached, or where does he rank in terms of?
I'm going to be honest with you, and this is putting him in high cotton. And I was a little small guy. It wasn't Curry's side, but he's the best shooter I've ever seen other than Steph Curry. He's the best shooter I've ever seen. A lot of people don't know that Al could shoot the ball, but I'm telling you, he shot the ball like that with that kind of range. Mm-hmm. He wasn't as big because Al was only like 5'11". But, and he had some tryouts and stuff, I think with New Jersey or somebody. Got cut, didn't make it, played over in Croatia and some places like that. But the best shooter I've seen outside of Steph Curry is Al Dillon.
Now, when I was coaching against you, my perception of you was that, man, this guy's so serious. And, I mean,
I've heard that before.
And you're intimidating, man. I mean, like, it was intimidating to coach against you.
When I'm totally two different people.
That's what I was going to ask.
On the practice floor, on game night, than I am like we're just sitting here now talking. But on game night, I am in a totally different mode.
You're quiet too. You're kind of like.
I'm gonna say what I got.
You seem almost kind of dangerous.
Yeah, I'm gonna say what I got to say till you move on.
Yeah, right.
And I remember president of ours. And he came up with something before a game, and I mean, I kind of just grunted at him. And I remember saying, I guess we can't talk to you on game night. And I'm thinking, that's right. Talk to me tomorrow. Whatever you got, whatever problem you got, talk to me tomorrow. But when I was in game mode, I was in game mode. And I was locked in, and I was focused. Thinking about everything, running that game through my head before we even played. and so tunnel vision with that. And but then after the game's over, I can let it go. And I used to tell the officials, and I don't know if you know Craig Lane or not. Craig used to tell me all the officials was intimidated by me. He said, "Them guys are scared of you." I said, "Why?" I said, "I'm just coaching my team. I coach hard, you know, and I work them a little bit, but all good coaches do that." Yeah. He said, "Coach, I'm telling you, them guys, they be, God, you know, we got to go down there. We got to coach, we got to ref Southern Union tonight." And he said, I used to tell him, "No, he's a good guy." I've been knowing Craig since he was in high school. So we used to play pickup together. He said, "No, I'm telling you, he's a good guy." And I said, "Craig, next time you bring him, tell him once the game's over, the game's over. If I saw him out somewhere, we could go have a beer together." And I said, "But once the game's over, the game's over. That's just my game persona."
Yeah.
And it was two different things. You could meet me once you're up, and then once I calm down at the game, we could sit, we could have you realize a totally different person.
Did your players ever see you let your hair down? I mean, you know, there was such a seriousness about you, but was there ever any situations throughout the years that maybe you did something funny in practice, or was it?
I used to laugh at them sometimes, but I wouldn't let them catch me laughing at them. And I'd always kind of stifle it or put my hand over my mouth, something stupid that they done.
Yeah.
So probably not. Most of them probably tell you, "Coach, you're serious." In fact, one of my kids always say, they'd be out there goofing off sometime right before practice, but they'd always hear me close that door. They said, "You can set your clock when time coach coming out of the office." They'd hear the door close, and then they'd be like, just silence, nothing. Now I walk out there, we was talking about, blow the whistle, boom, 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 we're gone. And so I just tried to keep two different personas, and I deliberately wouldn't give them certain sides of me. But sometimes they would do something silly, and I'd laugh at it, and I wouldn't even let them catch me laughing about it. So I kind of separated that.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Understandable. Now, I've got a very, very serious question for you. Am I probably the greatest coach that you ever coached against?
Absolutely.
Where do I rank in terms of,
Absolutely. Yeah. You beat me.
Well, hey. I wasn't going to mention that.
Yeah, you did. You beat me, and believe me, I hated to lose. And so if I lost a game, any coach, I mean, that stuck with me, and I couldn't wait to see you again to try to beat you.
Yeah, I'm sure you got me the next time. Who were some coaches that you sort of looked up to, and that could be at the college level, pro level?
Well, first one in our league was Coach Clem. Yeah. Because he was the standard. And in a lot of ways, and I know Knight had his troubles and his problems, and I played for a Knight disciple, so I had a little bit of relationship there. Didn't agree with a lot of things he did, but I know he got the most out of his kids. So in a lot of ways, I think, in a different way, not as I'd say profound way, but I probably admired the way he got his kids to go to class, to excel, and to really turn out to be great human beings. I got a chance to meet Quinn Buckner when I was out at Hampton interviewing for that job. And so that part of it I like, but I didn't agree with a lot of things he did. That's why I tell you I don't know if I could have coached with him, because I think our personalities would have clashed. And but I did admire the way his kids responded to him and how hard they played for him and how disciplined his teams were. So you always got to take what you feel is the good from somebody. You can't take everything from anybody. But I just because of the relationship, kind of from a distance, admired some of the things he did, but got a chance to meet John Wooden. And, obviously what he did at UCL and his pyramid of success. So just taking stuff from guys like that and admiring kids coaches from a distance, have that status, and ran across a lot of them. But, I always tried to look at every coach and watching games and just pick up something that they did or how they did it, and then try to use it and try to make my teams better. Because everybody can give you something. Everybody's doing something that you wasn't doing. I had guys come in and look at us practice. Tim Floyd coached all over the country and in the pros with the Bulls. But I remember he came down and watched a couple hour practice, and he was running a couple hour sets. When I turned on to watch his Iowa State team, but he was
makes you feel good.
Yeah, he was running a couple hour sets, and he told me he was going to do it.
Did you mention that to your wife?
No, I didn't say to her about it, but she watches, but you know how that goes. Yeah. She's a sports fan because her husband did it. Yeah, that's the only reason. But he was running couple of hours sets, and he told me he was going to do it. And it makes you feel good that somebody took something from you. But we all steal from each other. And but there's a lot of coaches out there that I've admired over the years and the way they do it. And so Nolan Richardson at Arkansas, very successful. Got to know him over the years, and so admired him a lot.
Yeah. When I think about Southern Union, I mean, you're synonymous with Southern Union. You're there for 34 years. Mm-hmm. What is it about that school that's special?
It's isolated. You can get kids in an environment where you can control more things with them. And then the administration was always very supportive. And you know me, I coach with a lot of fire, and sometimes got a little criticism from whomever, and they always supported me and they always backed me. But it's a unique place. You ain't coming to Wadley unless just you going there. That's where you're going, because it's off the beaten path. But it isolates those kids, and it gives them a chance to focus on education, to give a chance to focus on the game and just getting better with all the distractions. And to me, that's the best thing about it. And that's why I think any coach can go there and be successful if he do the right thing. Mm-hmm. No matter in recruiting, coaches use what they're going to use, and they always going to use, well, it ain't nothing there, and it ain't blah, 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 this. And then you turn it around and say, well, this is why you want to come, because you can focus on the things that you need to focus on. Mm-hmm. But a unique place.
So what's the future hold for you moving forward? I know you got a lot of stuff going on around the house, but I mean, mm-hmm. You like to fish, you hunt. Tell me, what are some things that you like to do outside?
I don't fish, I don't hunt, and I don't golf. Mostly I just find stuff to do, pill around the house, go visit family, and check on people, making sure they're okay. And but it seems like I get asked this question a lot. I always say, it seems like I always wake up every day with something to do, and that's a good thing. And watch, some basketball. Don't watch as much as what people probably think. I just watched the NBA Finals game of the night, but before that, I don't watch bits and pieces. But I did watch the final game.
And the game's changing, man.
Yeah,
it's changing on us. It's not the same game that it was 20 years ago.
It's almost totally different.
Yeah.
Now it's just, it used to be a time you always want that big man in the low post.
Yeah.
Now the big man in the low post is out on the perimeter.
Yeah.
And he ain't going nowhere near the low post.
Oh, we used to make fun of big men that stepped out and shot the three.
And that's what they want now.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can't do that, look at the big kid Edie from Purdue. 20 years ago, he'd been number one pick in the draft.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know where he got picked in the draft last year, but 20 years ago, he would have been number one pick in the draft.
Yeah.
That back to the basket guy, that low post guy, the Shaquille O'Neal of the world, that guy now became almost obsolete. They want that guy that's 6'11", that can handle the ball, bring it up like a guard, that can shoot the three, and play pick and pop, pick and roll. And that's the game now. And the 3-point shot, I remember Nato's done a great job at Alabama. But I watching a game one night, I forget who they was playing. They shot 55 threes, and I'm thinking there ain't no way. They got beat that night because they was missing them. Mm-hmm. But that's his philosophy, and obviously been to back-to-back Final Fours. Mm-hmm. So it's working. Mm-hmm. But that's not the school that I came from. Mm-hmm. Just not.
Well, man, I really do appreciate it, and it's really great to get to know you a little bit more outside of the court. And you're a teddy bear. So it's good to see you smiling and telling stories and not having such a serious.
Off the floor, I am.
Yeah.
And people that know me know that off the floor I am, but I go into a different mode on game night. Yeah. Yep.
Well, man, Coach, it's been a pleasure. Enjoyed it. Best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, yeah. Glad to do it.